YouTube, JT Serenity Farms Prepping here. Well, my last two videos were warning about vaccinations, making them mandatory, and punishing those who refuse to get marked, chipped, labeled, whatever you want to call it. Well, the push is on to form a narrative that vaccines should indeed be mandatory and to punish people who refuse the vaccination. There's no alternative. Okay, I'm going to be referencing an article by LifeSite News. This article is by a group of doctors who have laid out a plan to punish people who refuse the coronavirus vaccine. There is no alternative. Simply put, getting vaccinated is going to be our patriotic duty. So, you like how they throw that in there? They know patriots understand what this scam pandemic is all about. So they got to throw the word patriotic in there to get some wishy-washy fence straddlers to cave in. America should consider making it difficult for the unvaccinated to participate in society, the doctors wrote. Alright, before we get into this, Fauci, El Comrade, has been pushing it, depending on what day it is. We need vaccinations. We don't need vaccinations. It's probably going to take at least a year or two to get a vaccination. We're going to have a vaccination within a few months, and people should automatically start getting it, even though it's not proven and hasn't been tested. Okay? We already know the background. Fauci has a large vested interest in the company and the vaccination and stands to profit by hundreds of millions of dollars. Despite being, or not despite, and that he's part of the deep state to begin with. Okay? But his wishy-washy change your story every single day, rules for thee, not for me, narrative he's been laying out, have proven to anyone with half a brain that it's all a big scam. It's just to keep the fear going. If you change your professional opinion every day, people never get a chance to define what is actually going on until they wake up one day and realize that it is defined what's going on. It's all a freaking scam. So Fauci has lost all credibility with anyone who can think independently. So now you're going to see new narratives. Doctors from over here, doctors from over here, respected scientists from over here, all start to push punishing people who refuse to get a vaccination. So, let's read on. Okay, so this was August 11, 2020, so we're only talking 2 days ago. LifeSite News. A coronavirus vaccine should be mandatory, and tax penalties, higher insurance premiums, and denial of many government and private services ought to be considered for those refusing the shot. 3 doctors agreed in USA Today. Okay, we already know USA Today is no American fan. Alright, while the measures that will be necessary to defeat the COVID will seem draconian, I have used that word, ironic, no, even excuse me, even anti-American to some, we believe there is no alternative. Simply put, getting vaccinated is going to be our patriotic duty, wrote Doctors Michael Letterman, Maxwell Melman, and Stuart Youngerer. I'll do a little investigation on these three, but we'll probably be easily determine which way they vote. Okay. There's no alternative to vaccine-induced herd immunity in a pandemic, they argue. I'd like to argue that vaccine-free herd immunity would already have been accomplished within a month or two had we allowed people to live their lives normally and protected the most vulnerable, i.e. immune-compromised and the elderly. 99.95% of us would still be just walking around living our lives. But that wasn't the plan, was it? They continue. Broad induction of immunity in the population by immunization will be necessary to end this pandemic. No, it's not. We would have virtually, literally, very likely already have achieved enough herd immunity that there would be a rare case now and then of someone who shouldn't have been out and about like the people we've already described, and they were. But we already know this has nothing to do with the health and welfare of anyone. So the USA Today article, they published one on August 6th, titled, Defeat COVID-19 by Requiring Vaccination for All. It's not un-American, it's patriotic. Then ironically, 5 days later, doctors come out in another publication and frame this as our patriotic duty. So, the USA Today's original subhead was, Make vaccines free. Don't allow religious or personal objections and punish those who won't be vaccinated. They are threatening the lives of others. Okay, mask shaming leads to vaccination shaming. Well, you didn't get vaccinated, so you're killing me. Well, you got vaccinated, so you should be fine. Just like you mask idiots. If that mask works so well, and if you're wearing one and I'm not, then you should be protected. If a 6-foot distance is fine, why do we need the mask? If the mask is fine, why do we need 6 feet? There's no factual evidence to everything they're doing to us. Quite the contrary. They changed that subtitle, Make vaccines free, don't allow religious or personal objections, and create disincentives for those who refuse vaccines shown to be safe and effective. Okay, so they realized where threatening the lives of others wasn't going to win hearts and minds. Disincentivize. Okay? That's substituted for punish. And vaccines that are shown to be safe and effective, yet it's proven fact vaccines are not listed as medicines, so they don't have to be tested. Fauci has even said he's going to get this done as soon as possible, and then people are going to immediately start taking it without it being tested or shown to be effective. Once again, libertards read the USA Today. We use it to start the wood stove and in the litter box. Pretty much tells you what you need to know. They have a screenshot of this, and it's a person laying there with a injection in their arm, and that subtitle that I had, requiring vaccinations. It's not un-American, it's patriotic. Okay, but the doctors are adding, when a vaccine is ready, it's got to be free, and exemptions must only be made for people with medical contradictions to immunization. But medical conditions that prevent or prohibit COVID-19 vaccines will be rare. Okay, so they're playing both sides again. We will allow medical contradictions, because there are some instances where people, whatever poison is in that vaccine, it's just not going to be allowed for certain people. At least they want you to believe that. But then out of the other side of their mouth, it will be rare. Okay? No religious or personal objections should be honored, and harsh penalties should be adopted by important sectors of society to pressure the populace to combine. Okay? Well, who are the important sectors? Who determines who's important and who's not? The doctors? We all know how that's going to go. Where are your captive audiences that particular sector of our society is going to be considered important? Your schools, your colleges, your churches, and your business employers. Captive audiences. Which is my segue to the very next paragraph. I'm going to move this closer. The physicians proposed private businesses could refuse to employ or serve unvaccinated individuals. What is this but the next step up of all the businesses that we see that refuse to serve policemen, law enforcement, ICE, conservatives? Yeah, that's all they're going to do. That's playing on this. Schools should refuse to allow unimmunized children to attend classes. Public and commercial transit companies, planes, trains, and automobiles, and not your personal automobile, but if you rent a car from somewhere and you're unvaccinated, you may be tainting that vehicle for a future unsuspecting, immune-compromised individual. But I see it going as far as I'm driving my car, but I cannot have anyone in the car with me, even though it's my car, because I'm not vaccinated. And I could threaten the lives of others. Alright? You see where this is going. They are trying to make a narrative to punish and shame the weak, punish everyone like us that is not going to get the vaccination. Remember what I said? We're not going to be able to buy, sell, eat, travel. You're basically not going to be allowed to leave your home until they decide to come get you and then give you a decision to become vaccinated, or you might get a bullet to the back of the head a la Clinton side right there, or you may be taken to a re-education camp to think it over. public and private auditoriums could require evidence of immunization for entry. That just goes along with what I was just saying. If you don't have a vaccination, you're not going to the store, you're not going to a movie, you're not going to a sporting event, you're not going to a public, you're not going to be allowed to leave your home. Okay, then they outlined how a registry of immunization will be needed with names entered after immunizations are completed. People who receive the vaccine should be issued certification cards with immunization dates. The durability of protection by different vaccines may vary and may require periodic booster immunizations. How better than to keep the sheep in line and check on people, spy on people, by requiring them to get a new vaccination every 6 months. Personally, what this means to me is each time you're required to get a booster, it will be injecting a little more of the poison that they are giving those who are deplorables or undesirables or useless eaters, killing them slowly. Because then it will just come as a, oh, they must have just been too sick. If a vaccine is safe and effective, why would there need to be boosters? Okay? The concept of immunization cards or digital, yeah, I said that out loud, vaccination records was floated shortly before the COVID outbreak, projection, and since the virus has spread. A December 2019 article in Scientific American. Can you say that in the same sentence? MIT researchers have a vision for embedding vaccine records directly into the skin of children. Along with the vaccine, a child would be injected with a bit of dye, invisible to the naked eye, but seen with a special cell phone filter combined with an app that shines near infrared light on the skin. The dye would be expected to last up to 5 years, according to tests on pig and rat skin and human skin in a dish, as in Petri dish. You're a frickin' scientific experiment. The development of this idea, which the article proudly notes, avoid using iris scans that might violate privacy, funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It came about because of a direct request from Microsoft founder and philanthropist Bill Gates himself, who has been supporting efforts to wipe out diseases such as polio and measles across the world. Actually, Bill Depopulation Gates has been trying to eradicate humans across the world, mostly in third world shithole countries. India, Africa. Yeah. Oh, here he is. Dr. Anthony Fauci, aka Comrade Fauci, longtime director of the NI, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, and one of Trump's top pandemic advisors. They had to put that in there to make it seem that he has some credibility. We know better. He said in April he thought it was possible that one day Americans may have to carry certificates showing they're immune to the coronavirus. Alright. I think it might actually have some merit under certain circumstances, he added. In April, Gates speculated, eventually we're going to have some digital certificates to show who's recovered, who's been tested, or when we have a vaccine, who's received it. Alright. You see where this is all going? Oh. Now here, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pointed out a significant percentage of participants in a recent trial for the coronavirus vaccination have been hospitalized. Okay. Gates has an ambition to control a global vaccination ID enterprise and give him dictatorial control of global health policy. Or global health policy. Alright. That's enough of that. It finished with a couple, Vladimir Putin is getting this going and already testing and all this. Alright. You clearly see what this is all about. Go on lifesitenews.com and check out that article. The US Today also has it. You knew this was where it was all going to go. This is the route they're going to take to try and force us all to be chipped. Okay? When they say punished, they mean punished. They're not listing everything they actually want to do to us. Make no mistake about it. Nowhere in these articles did it say that it would be allowed to not take a vaccine. You might say, but it didn't say that you could refuse. No, they're saying you can refuse, but you're going to be punished. That's not freedom of choice. When you're punished for exercising your freedom of choice. You see where all this is going. Like, share, comment, share this one, spread this. This has got to get out because you know that's what's coming. We're going to hear a lot more stories like this very soon. Every day, probably. Woo! Alright. For now, JT, signing off.